An aerotropolis is a large region, in most instances, that is catalysed or developed through an airport. It requires a dynamic and multifaceted airport to create the economic stimulus that then creates a regional stimulus. What you end up with is an airport that not only provides services for passengers, but a considerable commercial elements to it, and by so doing creates a volume of jobs and economic stimulus similar to a CBD of an average city or even a large city. The opportunity then is that it creates an attraction force that attracts industries, logistics firms, aerospace and defence firms to it. It enables existing operations around it to be stimulated. It provides markets for those operations. For example, we have a dairy farm, a very large dairy farm at the end of the runway. That could be an export opportunity, it could be a value-add opportunity. We're very interested in agribusiness establishing around at least some parts of the airport. Again, it'll have export opportunities like that. There are opportunities with aerospace and defence to create a very modern, innovative business park that would be include universities, STEM, that sort of opportunities, possibly even a school, which would provide opportunities for the whole of the neighbourhood. An aerotropolis is more than that, though. That's what happens around the airport. It goes much further out, and there are examples of aerotropolises that go for 30 kilometres. I see the whole of the Western Parkland city really being an aerotropolis, and that the established centres like Liverpool and Penrith are significant edge cities, particularly in the initial years of the airport. They will be the places where our business executives will want to go when they're visiting the airport, for example. So Liverpool, I believe, has a real opportunity to be even the premier edge city for the airport, a little bit like Songdo is to Incheon. We've got to be very careful. The history of airport development around the world is that an airport starts off with good intentions, often in a greenfield site, but slowly but surely is suffocated by what ends up being attracted to it. It has an attractive force. We've got to be very careful that we don't do that in this instance, because we have a greenfield airport and a real opportunity to be able to create buffers around that airport, to give the airport room to grow, to protect the residents around it who can be at a reasonable distance from it, from the emissions and the congestion and the adverse impacts that an airport can have. That way we can have a very successful airport, not constrained by the residents around it, and a happy bunch of residents who work and play at the airport and travel from there. So it's very important that we protect the integrity of the airport. Airports grow over time, their operations change, and that buffer around it, which could be several kilometres, provides that opportunity into the future. The advantage for Western Sydney Airport is that it doesn't need to use that land now, unlike a lot of other situations. There are significant opportunities within Liverpool and the other LGAs around it to have all of that residential development, even the industrial development, without suffocating the airport. The other thing is that we must ensure that the airport itself grows and has every opportunity to grow, and by that I mean we shouldn't compete with the airport's own interests. We must, if the airport does not succeed, the aerotropolis fails entirely. Look, a second very strong component of making an airport a success is that an airport has to be a good neighbour. It must fit in with an ecosystem, and that ecosystem are the residents and the workers of that airport. They are also the passengers of that airport. All successful airports now look very much at the passenger experience. They look at their workers and their satisfaction in their jobs, but they also look at the community that surround them, and are very committed to positive engagement and very active engagement. So a secret to a successful airport is that it must be a good neighbour. It must respect its residents. If it fails to do that, the residents will shut it down. Many and varied. Where do I start? The advantages of a large greenfield site, and I think it's a very unique situation we have with Western Sydney Airport, is that we can plan carefully, and we can ensure that we don't encroach the airport in any way. We can ensure that there is appropriate planning to make sure that the appropriate uses are put in the right places. Airports have different impacts on different areas. So if you're north or south of the runway, that's a great place for industrial. If you're east and west, that's a much better place. That is, if the runway is running north-south, it's a much better place for residential, mixed use, and other issues like that. So secondly, I think it's the opportunity is that we leverage the green components of the site and create a green airport. In fact, given the amount of green space we have around it and the wonderful rural landscape we're setting the airport in, we have the opportunity possibly to create the greenest airport in the world. By that I mean, with space around the airport, we could have solar farms. The airport could then be powered by solar renewable energy. We can deal with our stormwater in a much more sustainable manner than just flushing it out to the rivers beside us. We have the opportunity with an airport like that to have electric cars, for example, brand new transport systems, and just create an airport that has maybe a carbon neutral and that is a real example of sustainability around the world.